So I decided to put together a couple videos and snippets of our current situation with the BRICS. BRICS, for those of you that don't know, BRICS is a combination of countries that came together to try to form their own currency, so that they can trade within their own currencies with each other, so they can get rid of the U.S. dollars and having to trade within the U.S. dollars. So for about 100 years now, all the countries around the world has been trading with the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar has held its dominance. And so basically what that means is, if Russia wants to buy goods from China, they would buy those goods with United States dollars instead of them using their own currencies. So, and the reason why this is happening is because our monetary system was believed to have so much strength and pretty much fail-proof, and so that everybody know that if they were to buy goods with those dollars, that those dollars would last and they would be able to still be used and spent wherever they take it. And so that's why everybody agreed to use the US dollar, along with probably a bunch of other stuff that the United States had done to force their way in to make it so that everybody does use their dollar. So anyways, after a bunch of wars and coups and murders of political leaders around the countries and everything else that the United States has done, these collective groups that form BRICS will be Brazil, as an acronym, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They come together as a collective to come up with their own monetary system so that they can trade within that, and they can try to basically make the dollar lose its value. So in terms, the dollar compared to the BRICS would be $55. So every $1 would be $55 in in BRICS currency. So for an example, let me see if I can bring up my calculator. So say you buy some Jordans from China, and these Jordans are $200. So at the rate of those Jordans being $200 at 55 bucks inflated, you would actually be paying $11,000 for those Jordans coming out of China. And so that's the current situation that we're in right now. You have political leaders in the Western societies that's trying to stop this situation that's going on, and right now it's spiraling out of control. You actually got other nations that's seeing that what's going on, and they're wanting to get in on it. This is not the first time that something like this has happened, where they try to take the power out of the Federal Reserve, which it's not even a government ran institution. Our monetary system isn't even ran by the government or Congress. It's actually ran by a private entities, which are these families that came together, the rich families that came together, like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. And what they did was they basically tricked Congress into voting to have them run our monetary system, which is why they're able to print so much money at the drop of a dime. It's not backed by gold. They actually took the United States dollar out of the gold standard. So the dollar isn't backed by gold anymore, which is what it used to be. So basically, if you have, just on small terms, you got $10 worth of gold, and you could print $10 worth of dollars to match that, and it's backed. Well, now it's not like that anymore. So anyways, like I was saying, there was a couple of people that tried to take that out of circulation. One of them you have was Lincoln tried it. He was assassinated. You got JFK when he tried it. He got assassinated. Then you have other groups that tried to do the same thing with taking the power out of the United States hands with the dollar and trading within euros. And one would be what was his name? Gaddafi. Gaddafi was one who tried to trade within his own within euros. And you have Saddam Hussein. He also was one that tried to get away from trading with the U.S. dollars. And you see what happened with those guys. Chavez was another one. It's gonna go into it with a couple of these videos that I'm gonna show you. So every time they try to get rid of the U.S. dollar, then they sent in the CIA or whoever else they may have sent in to assassinate those political leaders. So that didn't go through. Well, right now with B.R.I.C.S, it's so big, and you have world powers that are huge on a bigger scale, like Russia and China, and so they have nuclear weapons and things to protect themselves against these ploys that the United States may try to send their way. So it's not as easy right now to stop what's going on now. Especially when you got these collective of countries coming together. So the United States isn't just the only world superpower anymore. So it's not just easy to just come in. And of course, they're trying their best to try to stop this situation and keep it from happening. But right now, I guess time will tell what will happen. But it's just so much going on. But I'm gonna end this now and get into the video, and hopefully you guys like it and it gives you a better understanding of what's going on and help you to plan for the situation at hand. And then you have, I think, the worst monetary system right now might be Venezuela. Venezuela, for $1, I believe it's like $3,272 or $300,000 or something. It's ridiculous compared to dollars. And so and it's like that all over the countries. Or $1 you can go over to somewhere else and fucking it's like $500 over there. So the power structure that's changing right now is basically just taking us out of that sphere of being the one that has this global dominance with our dollar and turning it around on us. And so like I said, we'll see what happens. I'm gonna get into this video, and like I say, hopefully you like it, and hopefully you start doing your due diligence and start trying to figure out what you can do in light of this situation. And you can see a lot of the effects that's going on with this situation with the prices of food, gas, everything, rents going up, banks aren't giving out loans. They're really trying to crash the system, and that goes into another video with the Fed now and how they're trying to make everything digitize, a digital currency. But I think I'll go in on that at a later date. But without further ado, I'm gonna start the video. This is one other thing that I gotta add in, which actually involves the first video that I'm gonna show. This first video that I'm gonna show is a collective of incidents where other groups around the world tried getting rid of the US dollar, and what ended up happening to them through assassination. And looking back at all this, this is pretty much part of the reason why these countries is coming together and they're doing what they're doing now. So that's gonna be the first set of videos that I'll show you, and I'm gonna get right into it.
In October 2000, the president of Iraq, Saddam Hussein, announced they would no longer be selling oil in US dollars, only in euros. which on the surface is an innocent change. What's the big deal? The big deal is that Iraq has the 5th largest petroleum reserves in the world, and in the 2000s it had become the world's 5th largest oil producer. So when Hussein decided to start selling oil in euros instead of dollars, the US wasn't too happy. By February 2003, he has sold over 3 billion barrels of oil for 26 billion euros. A month later, the US invaded Iraq.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
In an operation ironically called Operation Iraqi Freedom. They overthrew Saddam, and by June, just 4 months later, the country was back to selling oil in dollars. Years later, a number of US officials started to let the truth seep out. Former head of US operations in Iraq, General John Abizaid, said, "Of course it's about oil. We can't really deny that." Former Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan wrote in his memoir that, quote, "I'm saddened that it's politically inconvenient to acknowledge what everyone knows. The Iraq War is largely about oil," end quote. And former Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel said the same in 2007. Quote, "People say we're not fighting for oil. Of course we are," end quote. Venezuela, 2002. Coincidentally, Venezuela also has large oil reserves. In fact, they have the largest proven oil reserves in the world. At the time, Hugo Chavez was in charge of Venezuela as the dictator president. But Chavez, a die-hard anti-American leader, was about to make the same grave mistake that Saddam Hussein made. He planned to start selling oil for euros instead of the mighty American dollar. Well, we can't have that now, can we? So in 2002, the US backed a coup against Chavez, which ultimately failed, but it crippled the country and its economy. Empires are built on oil. Yet despite having the largest oil reserves in the world, today Venezuela is one of the poorest economies in the world. Do other factors play into that? Many. We've talked about a few of them on this channel before. But going against the US is probably a big no-no. Libya, 2009. Eerily similar to Venezuela and Iraq, Libya has the largest oil reserves in Africa, and they weren't doing that bad. They did a great job managing all those oil revenues, building up a 143-ton gold reserve according to WikiLeaks. They had the highest GDP per capita in Africa, and Libya was on track to become the most influential country in Africa. And also similar to Venezuela and Iraq, Muammar Gaddafi, the leader of Libya, suggested all Muslim and African countries buy oil from Libya using a new currency backed by their giant gold reserves instead of US dollars. In other words, they wanted to sell oil in exchange for gold instead of US dollars, and other major African governments were ready to support. But I think we can all guess what happened next. NATO led a military coalition into Libya in the name of freedom, of course, and on August 20th, 2011, Muammar Gaddafi was executed by Libyan militias, backed by US drone strikes. Years later, it was discovered in Hillary Clinton's emails that NATO really wanted to overthrow Gaddafi's government, mainly because of this plan for an African gold-backed currency, supported by Libya's oil reserves. This was Libya before, and this is Libya today. A failed state with widespread poverty and an ongoing civil war. Why? Because each of these countries tried to break away from using the dollar as payment for their oil, and each of them faced the consequences of America's wrath. Out of all of them, none were able to recover from America's interventions in the name of freedom and in taking down an axis of evil.
And their terrorist allies constitute an axis of evil, servants of evil, the cult of evil, a monumental struggle of good versus evil.
And they usually ended up far worse than they were before. All these countries had problems, but all of these countries had huge economic potential despite their dictator leaders. But as soon as they moved away from selling oil in dollars, the US swooped in and quickly put an end to the party. And they're not alone. Which begs the question, why is it so important for oil to be only sold in US dollars? What's the big deal? Why is America so quick to liberate people as soon as this oil for dollars arrangement is threatened?
Okay, so what we just seen was basically what happens when other leaders try to get around using the US dollar and implement their own currencies or currencies of a different country other than the United States. Basically, the United States will have them assassinated, for lack of better words. They may have the CIA come in and assassinate them, or form fake wars like they did with Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi, try to make them as out to be these terrible people that just form atrocities. Basically, one main person that stands out will be Gaddafi, and how they try to make him to be the worst person in the world, when actually Gaddafi did tons of good things for his citizens. One of them being nobody had to pay for living expenses. They were actually sent to school for free. He would actually send them to the United States for schooling and pay for all of it. It was free water, free lights. If they wanted to go into farming, he'd give them tractors and cattle and seeds, and all this was free. Obviously this was said just so that they can get the backing of the United States to be able to go in, the United States and the Congress to be able to go in and remove this guy from power. So this is the stuff that they've been doing for years and years and years. Now the next video that I'm gonna get into is going to be an introduction to BRICS, and it's gonna give you a little insight on why BRICS was started, when it was started, and some of the starting members and things of that sort. And so I'm going to get right into it.
The group of emerging economies known as BRICS makes up more than 40% of the world's population and a quarter of the global economy. And more countries want to join the club, which aims to challenge a world order seen to be dominated by the US and its Western allies. But what exactly is BRICS? Who wants in? And why? Underscoring the growth potential of Brazil, Russia, India, and China, a chief economist at Goldman Sachs came up with the BRIC acronym in 2001. The group was founded as an informal club in 2009. Its creation initiated by Russia. South Africa joined the following year. It's the smallest member in terms of economic clout and population. BRICS is not a formal multilateral organization like the UN or World Bank. Its leaders usually get together annually, with each nation rotating through a one-year chairmanship of the group. The bloc operates by consensus. Apart from geopolitics, the group's focus includes economic cooperation and increasing multilateral trade and development. And that's attracting others. This year's chair, South Africa, says over 40 countries have expressed interest in joining. Iran has said it hopes the club will pin down the new membership process as soon as possible. Oil heavyweight Saudi Arabia has the backing of Russia and Brazil. And Argentina says it has China's support. One of Africa's fastest growing economies, Ethiopia, says it's asked to join. Bolivia appears interested too. In July, the country turned to the Chinese yuan, saying it wanted to curb dependence on the US dollar for foreign trade. That move aligns with BRICS' stated aim. The same month, Algeria said it applied for membership and to become a shareholder in the so-called BRICS Bank, or New Development Bank. Still, current members are divided over expansion. China wants the group to get bigger as it tussles with the US over trade and geopolitics. South Africa and Russia, which hopes to thaw its diplomatic isolation over the Ukraine war, are also keen to see the group grow.
All right, so as you see, that was a brief introduction of what the BRICS is and what they're planning and how they're gonna put it into motion. This next one is going to hit on things that's going on in Africa. So right now, the African president and the colonel and everyone, they're having mass protests and everything. They want the French embassy and all their members to leave immediately. I believe they gave them about 48 hours to leave. They end up turning off their water supply, their power supply. Macron says he's not going to leave, and they're basically saying they're not going to leave. They're standing up and they're fighting against it. They believe that they are the reason why Africa is where they are now. You have them basically saying they're not leaving, and they're doing whatever they can to keep from leaving. You actually have United States fighter jets that lined up on the borders. I'm not exactly sure where they lined up at, but they lined up on the borders to basically get ready to form an attack against Nigeria. But you got Nigeria, and you have a bunch of other African countries that come together, and they say that they're joining in, and they must leave their areas too. And if war is provoked, then they're going to get into it as well. So it's a lot going on, but here's a brief snippet of them and the mass protests of their civilians saying that they want them out, they want them gone. They're tired of their neo-colonialism and them trying to come in and take over everything, and they're running them dry of their resources. Africa is one of the richest continents when it comes to resources, and there's no reason why. I believe they're number 2 on the poverty list of countries, and so there's no reason why they should be that poor when they have so many resources at their expense. So basically what the French is doing and the United States, they're just sucking them dry. They're taking all their resources and they're not giving them anything back. So they're tired of it, and so they're all trying to come together and get all their resources back and try to uplift their people and get them out of this poverty-stricken situation that they're in.
Oui, c'est largement suffisant. Le 26 juillet 2023, 26 août 2023, c'est un mois déjà que le CNSP a pris le pouvoir. Et comme vous le voyez, depuis la prise du pouvoir, tout le temps le peuple est au dehors. Un mois, le peuple est toujours au dehors pour soutenir le CNSP. On ne se fatigue pas, on s'allie, on fait un seul cordon derrière le CNSP pour le soutenir. Pour dire merci au CNSP qui a pu libérer le peuple nigérien. En quelque sorte, ils nous ont libérés d'un fardeau qui est sur nos épaules.
Ikitir kirno irlabo irma jaata sarabanyam irwo burkiniano general Chani Abraman ni ki aranse ir super futonye ir sukonde ni portuga amma portugan kanda irga abdia.
Si on a demandé le départ de leur ambassadeur, qu'ils sachent que c'est une décision de tous les Nigériens, parce que le CNSP aujourd'hui représente tous les Nigériens.
For the people who work numbers, I am giving you free advice that those of you who are holding dollars, you surely might go into losses. You better do what you must do, because this market is going to be different in a couple of weeks. And secondly, we, through the central bank, we are having conversations to reinstate the interbank exchange market that has since not worked. And I am happy that the players in that sector, including our banks, are coming forward and they are participating, and they are working with the central bank so that we can again take charge of our market and that it is not allowed to be distorted.
Okay, so what you see there was Putin speaking on how Western countries won't be invited to join BRICS. You also have the Kenyan president saying how the dollar is going to drastically lose its value within the next upcoming weeks. He had a speech where he was telling all his people that the dollar is going to lose its value. You actually have about 7 more countries that they're inviting into join into this whole new monetary system that they're trying to form. So it's taking form pretty quickly. I noticed that a lot of people don't even know what's going on. They have no idea what's going on, probably because it's not being spoken about on CNN or Fox News. They're not bringing that stuff up. This stuff you actually have to go dig for and try to do your research to really figure out what's going on. Yeah, the dollar is definitely losing its value. They got a lot of stuff that's going on right now. I spoke previously on Fed Now and the plan on trying to enact Fed Now into the system. Basically, some of the things that I've heard, and you actually got one guy. He's a major conspiracy theorist, which you honestly see a lot of the conspiracy theories that people were saying. That's a conspiracy theory. I don't believe that. No, it's too far-fetched. You're starting to see that shit's really true. Like, so it's kind of opening your eyes up to see that, yeah, it's a lot of crazy stuff that's going on in the world. But anyways, you got Alex Jones. He's like one of the biggest conspiracy theorists. But anyways, he's speaking on that he got information from a couple government officials that are saying that that they are going to bring back lockdown. So we're going to be locked back down, and basically the only way that we're going to be able to get money will be through or financial help through the government will be to take on FedNow, and so that's how they plan on introducing it to us. And so basically, once we accept FedNow, then everything is digital. So now we're going into a digital society where it's digital currency. And when you really think about all the negative impact that will have on us, to where if they say you bought too many hamburgers today, they cut off your money supply. And so basically, if you can just imagine them being able to hit a button to where you can't even go get some of your basic necessities, that's a whole different ball game. And we had a small introduction of them being able to do something like that with Canada when they enlisted the lockdowns again over in Canada, and those truckers came together within the protest and blocked imports and exports of some major bridge down there, to where nobody could come in or go out. And with the I believe it was the government down there, I believe she was a female, don't quote me on that, but I believe she was a female, and what she did was she cut off their banking so that they were not able to withdraw any of their money. And so you'll see, once you try to stand up and say, okay, we're not gonna stand for this, and you say you might try to protest, then they cut off your money supply. And so we can see where things will go if you start saying, okay, let's do that. A lot of people really, they don't really look at it that way. They so lost. It's really people just going along with whatever they say. They don't believe that the government will do a lot of the things that they'll do. And so hopefully that hits something up there to make y'all really go out there and research what's going on. I'm gonna find a lot more videos and stuff that'll hit on a lot of stuff that's going on right now in the world, and hopefully you guys can try to plan and get around some of the negative effects that's coming our way. I'm gonna end this video, and hopefully I hit somebody with a little bit of knowledge to help them progress their life for the better. And I'm gonna end this, and I'm gonna do some more research, and I'm out.